All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our This or That series. It is a sub-series of our Backpack to Briefcase episodes that we've done in the past. This episode is for students who are curious to know the similarities and differences between data analytics and information systems, as well as some of the differences. Today, we have the pleasure of having our in-house experts, Dr. Chris Corcoran and Dr. Andy Brim with us. Dr. Chris Corcoran is our department head for the Data Analytics and Information Systems Department, and Dr. Brim is a professional practice assistant professor as well as a project mentor at the Analytics Solutions Center here on campus. And just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Valerie Reese, and I'm a career coach here at Huntsman School of Business. And I'm going to share some bios about Dr. Corcoran and Dr. Brim, and then we'll turn the time over to them. We'll have some discussions about these two majors and help you understand which one is right for you. So, Dr. Corcoran is the department head for data analytics and information systems, and he's the inaugural David B. Haight Professor of Analytics in the John M. Huntsman School of Business. Dr. Corcoran earned a bachelor's degree in statistics with a minor in computer science from Utah State University, and completed his doctorate degree in biostatistics at Harvard University. And prior to joining the Huntsman School, Dr. Corcoran served as a faculty member and department head at USU's Department of Mathematics and Statistics. Dr. Corcoran's research focuses on statistical and computational methods for analyzing data from studies with rare and sparse outcomes. He has served as a consultant in developing software tools widely used by biotech and pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Corcoran also has extensive experience as a senior statistician with large biomedical and public health studies with complex outcomes, including Alzheimer's disease, cancer, autism, birth defects, cognitive change and aging, hip fracture, and genetic causes of human disease. His research collaborations have been supported by over $25 million in research funding and have yielded over 100 peer-reviewed publications and book chapters. Dr. Corcoran was recognized as the College of Science Faculty Researcher for the year of 2012. Dr. Corcoran loves working with students. He has personally mentored dozens of undergraduate, master's, and doctoral students over his career, and he has taught courses in analysis, mathematical statistics, and advanced computing methods for data analysis. He has been previously recognized during his career as the Faculty Teacher of the Year in Mathematics and Statistics. Under Dr. Corcoran's leadership, the Department of Data Analytics and Information Systems has developed undergraduate and master's tracks to accelerate the rapidly expanding professional opportunities for students in data and tech, including programs in data analytics, data engineering, web development, and cybersecurity. These programs provide hands-on experiences for students in Python coding, web development and programming, database management, data visualization, data mining, cloud computing, machine learning and AI, and enterprise security. Dr. Corcoran also helped to create the Analytics Solution Center, partnering with companies to provide opportunities for students to solve complex real-world problems. In his spare time, Dr. Corcoran loves spending time with his family, reading good books, watching Aggie athletics, and trail running and hiking in the mountains and canyons across the spectacular western United States. And now I will introduce Dr. Brim. Dr. Brim earned his PhD in computer science in 2020 from Utah State University, a master's in financial economics in 2019, I believe. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. And a BS in computer science in 2006. Prior to his doctoral work, Dr. Brim was a software developer for Bank of America Global Markets Trading Technology Division. Andrew developed software applications for the credit derivative trading, rates derivative trading, and electronic and algorithmic trading groups. Andrew's research interests include artificial intelligence, stock market predictions, and reinforcement learning techniques in various areas. He also mentors the Algorithmic Trading Club here on campus. Andrew met his wife Cammie at USU. Go Aggies. They have 4 children who they love to spend time with in the sights of beautiful Cache Valley. Andrew's personal interests include music, herpetology, is that right?
You got it, yep.
Yay, and religion. So welcome, Dr. Corcoran and Dr. Brim. We're so excited to have you here and share your expertise and experience with our students. So the format will be kind of a question and answer. So the first question is, what career paths can students with a degree in data analytics and information systems pursue?
Well, thanks, Valerie, and really grateful to be participating in this to help students to understand what the opportunities are. And so thank you for putting this together, and thanks for inviting us. I apologize, my intro was kind of long, and so I feel like Andy, like mine was a little longer than yours, but I feel like it's inversely proportional to our quality as professors. So
I don't know. I think yours is a pretty.
Yeah, the longer the bio, the more suspicious. You know that is. But anyway, Andy, if it's okay, let me speak to the data analytics part, and maybe you can you can kind of pick it up from there on the information system side. I'm a data nerd. I come from a data background. My background is more kind of statistics and data science, and as Valerie said in the bio, with kind of a focus over my career on interesting problems in health and medicine. But really, data impacts everything. I mean, every company now is a data company. It doesn't matter what that company produces, whether they're manufacturing an actual product, whether it's an information-based company like, like say a company like Google or a social media company. Every company is a data company. And so every single company on this planet needs to have people who understand how to analyze data, how to use data. And I'd say overarching all of that, they need people working for these companies who are good translators, because, there are a lot of people that maybe don't understand complex data analysis tools. And so the students and the graduates from our department who have a focus in data analytics are developing the communication skills that they need, and those translational skills, so that they can take things that may be complex, that they apply to data, and they interpret those results in a way that informs people who are in other kinds of positions in the company, management positions or other colleagues at a company, to inform strategy, to help companies know how much of a product to make, what kinds of inputs they need, how to market those products, how to make sound financial decisions, in terms of investments and so on. Data just impacts every corner of a company. And so what our graduates are able to do, we're a very enterprise facing department, and our graduates are able to get a good hands-on experience in our department, and then they're able to go and work for a company where they can serve in that translational role. They understand how a business works because we are in the Huntsman school, and so they understand basic finance, basic accounting, basic marketing, basic economics, and so on. And because they have that breadth combined with this hands-on experience in data, they're able to go and serve in a position where they can communicate with people. I'll just say one thing before Andy comments on the IS side as well, because the two sides are very complementary. But one thing I want to point out is that we produce graduates who can work as a part of a team. The companies are not interested in data trolls. In other words, very highly technical savants who work in isolation in a basement or something like that, and who peck away at a computer. Yes, technical skills are a big part of this, but if you enjoy working with people, if you enjoy working as a part of a team, if if you enjoy being a member of a team where you bring your own expertise to the table and combine that with other people who have other backgrounds, those are the kinds of jobs that our students are able to qualify for, or graduates are, because companies need people, again, who can work in a team-oriented environment, not people who work in isolation. So in other words, those are the kinds of jobs that our students get on the analytics side. They have to be able to understand problems. They have to be able to, take that problem and solve it, and then deploy the solution and interpret the solution in a way that allows other people, the company who maybe are not as technical, to really gain from that solution. So I'm speaking more to the data analytics side because my background is data science. But Andy, do you want to riff on that a little bit in terms of what our students do on the IS side?
Absolutely. Excellent answer, Chris and Valerie. Great intro. Thanks for having us. To let me point out something Chris said that affects both data analytics and information systems. We are ever living in the data age. Data is ballooning everywhere and every type. Let me give you a quick example. So when I started my career, I was a software developer for Bank of America's investment bank, exclusively working in their trading desk. So a lot of people are familiar with the trading that happens with stocks and bonds. They do a lot of that, and also other financial instruments. Anything that can be traded, they trade. And when I started there, algo trading was just kind of getting started. It was about 90% of the trading was done by humans. Somewhere in the trading process, a human made a decision. And by the time I left there to pursue academics, it had flipped. 90% of trading was done totally algorithmically, and about 10% still had a human somewhere making the decision on whether or not should we make this trade or not. And that happened in two parts. A lot of people think, well, the advances of coding and algorithmic development are the reason for that. Partly, but data is really the reason for that, because of the vastness of data creation and data accessibility really allowed for the modern algo trading that we know today. And since then, it's gone from 90% to 100% or near 100% because of the data. In fact, the last job I had there was building high-speed databases for algorithmic trading platforms, because they needed, all the data that they could need to make a decision on whether or not to trade. The data was the thing that made it possible, in addition to the advanced algorithm writing. But that is true, as Chris said, in every industry. Data is ballooning and ever available and ever more of it. And when I was, an undergrad, when you would do a final project, a lot of times the bottleneck to it is, can I even get the data to do what I'm trying to do, or the analysis I'm trying to do, or build the program I'm trying to build? Now it's really kind of flipped to, there's huge data sets. How do I take all this raw, unstructured data and then engineer it to something usable and buildable to do whatever I want, to build a new product or a new service or a new business, or get a decision making role based on data in the company that I want to work for? That's now the issue. Is you have seemingly infinite data. How do I do something with it? So a lot of that has changed, and really, this department used to be MIS. To give you a little history lesson, it's really ballooned so much that our department split. The need for strong statistical tools has become so great, pretty much everyone needs them. So data analytics and the ability to make decisions with data has evolved so much. It really necessitated the department transforming into a 2-degree department of data analytics and information systems. And then to answer specifically, information systems. So the information systems emphases that we provide are web development, which is actually right now evolving into full stack development. So if you want to build an application where the main source to your users is the web, you'll have a web server side, web client side, and then a data layer underneath. That's a full stack application, and then also a mobile app along with it. We offer all of that. So we'll teach you how to build those, build that application. Information systems also has an emphasis in data engineering. So this is actually, if I had to pick the spot that's the closest between the 2 degrees would probably be IS data engineering, because then you'll take all the classes that do with building data solutions like databases, and those solutions are ever evolving into data warehousing solutions and data lake and data pipelining solutions on cloud. Cloud has brought a whole other element into how data is stored and used and scaled and made secure. All of that is you'll learn as part of the IS data engineering emphasis. And then there's also cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, that field, data, the increase in data has made that field just also balloon. And cybersecurity emphasis, you'll learn all the tools and techniques to secure data and to catch intruders, to catch hackers, and cybersecurity analysts, make their corporate data and their corporate technical resources secure, and you'll learn all about that and all of the tools that go along with that job as well. And those grads go into excellent jobs as cybersecurity analysts. So there's a big long answer for the careers are varied, but the things that are consistent are the data tools, the programming tools that go along with it. Coding and data go together like peanut butter and jelly. You'll learn those in any of our degrees, and then you'll be able to specialize from there.
Yeah, and Andy, that's a great point. That the interesting thing about these different paths. So we have different tracks in the department. On the IS side, as Andy said, there's a data engineering, there's web/software development, there's cybersecurity. The data analytics degree, stands apart. But as we've both kind of said, these degree programs are very, very complementary. You think about, like, for example, a data science process at a company, because every company has, data analysts and they work on projects to inform, issues that are important for that company. That pipeline, where you actually get the data, you have a question, you want to answer that question using data, you get the data, you have to get the right data set, you create maybe a tool using some data statistical models or some computational models to get some insights from that data. And then, as Andy just pointed out, then you deploy a solution. It doesn't do any good if you do something really complex unless people can actually use it, like, say, through like some sort of app that's developed. Every part of that pipeline, from the information that you have, it needs to be secure. You need to protect that information from outside, actors who might be trying to hack or do something kind of nefarious, with your company's data. You need to actually get the right data to answer the question. That's a data engineering problem, engineering a data set to answer the right question. To do the modeling, that's a kind of a data science function. And then to deploy a solution, that's a software development, a web development angle that is also important. So in other words, graduates get jobs all the way up and down that pipeline. And as Andy pointed out, as the importance of data has really ballooned, over the past couple of decades, this has become more important for companies to be able to manage this kind of pipeline. The job titles have also kind of proliferated. So, companies now, they hire people to do more, I guess, kind of specific tasks along this pipeline. And so in terms of what sorts of job titles our graduates can be looking for once they graduate, this is something as a department that we look at closely all of the time. We're trying to do analysis, by looking at Glassdoor and LinkedIn and Monster.com and other job sites, so that we know what the trends are and what companies need. And, for example, I'll start out on the data side, Andy, and then you can kind of, maybe add some insights into other parts of the data pipeline. But our students look for job titles like a data analyst, business analyst, machine learning engineer, data scientist. Those are various job titles that our graduates are qualified to to look at, as they're kind of hunting for jobs beyond graduation, and that's on the data analytics side. Andy, do you want to run through some of the job titles that our graduates, that our graduates kind of kick the tires on when they're looking at other parts of that data pipeline?
Absolutely. So I'll just start rattling them off, and there is some overlap even between the emphases we offer, but a lot of our students are getting jobs. Those who do the web dev track are getting jobs as web developer, senior web developer, full stack developer, and for those who are curious, the difference. So full stack developer, you're going to be doing a little more server side development, which is typically where a lot of the business logic lies, and doing the analytics and any predictions or any saving of data layer, things like that. So full stack developer, and then that kind of overlaps with data engineer. So a lot of data engineer emphasis are getting jobs in the cloud. So data engineer or cloud administrator, things of that nature. And again, a data warehousing specialist or so typically your title will be data engineer, and then you'll be using specific data tools. So that's common for those majoring in the data emphasis. And then cybersecurity analyst, and cybersecurity programmer. So cybersecurity programmer will be writing more code. So writing software for either white hat hacking or anti-hacking. And then analyst is where you're learning the tools to do anti-hacking and prevention, also penetration testing if you're doing offensive cybersecurity work. But cybersecurity analyst and programmer are the two main jobs that those are getting. But again, there's overlap. And one thing I love about these degrees is the ability to move around to different companies, industries, and job titles from these degrees, because the fields are so growing that you really can do that. Whereas, I'll randomly pick a major. Not that there's any competition by any means, but if you're majoring in civil engineering, you will be doing civil engineering and physical engineering in some manner for your career, unless you want to upskill and then jump. You would have to do it like that. There's more ease in data analytics and IS moving between the jobs themselves, which is another advantage.
Yeah, excellent. Great information. And one thing that I hope that stands out to the students listening is also how agile the department has been in moving to meet the needs of the growing data around the world. I also, and thank you for sharing the job titles. As I meet with hundreds of students within Data IS, they're always looking to see what can I do with my degree. And as career coach, that's my goal, right, is to help them have a job when they graduate. So super helpful information. The next question I wanted to have us address is if you will each share maybe some of the similarities and differences between data and information systems.
Yeah, I'll pitch in first here, Andy, for just a second. We kind of talked about this a little bit in terms of how these disciplines complement each other. They're at the core. So in the core part of both programs, whether you're talking about data analytics or in information systems, the common skill sets that students actually acquire as a part of this program include basic database management and even kind of advanced database management. So for example, some of our foundational classes use SQL, which is a widely needed skill for people who work for companies. So they get a great hands-on experience in that. Python programming, Andy Brim here is the guy who's helped us to kind of develop our intro and advanced Python series. Even in our basic class, Data 2100, which is data and information and business, which all students in the Huntsman School take. Even in that class, you get basic Python and basic SQL. If you go and Google, what are the most needed skills, in data science and IS, what are the most marketable skills? SQL and Python will always be up there, you know, in the top 10, if not in the top 5. Python's, you know, Python and SQL arguably, you know, kind of trade off on different lists you look at in terms of the number one skill that's needed. And then there's, you know, some basic cloud computing that's common to kind of both degree programs. And then there's basic analytics using kind of modern analytics tools. So in other words, you know, when you look at the common kind of basic canonical requirements between IS and data analytics, there's a lot of overlap. Where they start to kind of separate is that our data analytics program does require a little more math and a little more kind of statistical knowledge. And so where they split from those core requirements, you know, on the data analytics side, you need some calculus, you need some linear algebra, you need some more advanced statistical methods classes. Now, if this sounds daunting, because some students who hear like the C word, they hear calculus and they think, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not that great at math. Just remember that math was invented by humans. It can be understood by humans. And so, you know, don't be worried about taking these classes. When we talk to people who are out there working, either alumni from Utah State or some of our recruiting partners, they emphasize that it's important if you have the opportunity to you know, stretch yourself and to take some of these classes. I myself, when I came to Utah State as an undergraduate student, I would have never dreamed of taking calculus. I was trying to avoid math as much as I possibly could, and I ended up majoring in it. And so if I can do it, anybody can do it. Don't be worried about these requirements. I mean, because the jobs that you can get if you qualify yourself are so rewarding, you know, so don't be daunted and think, well, you know, I don't know if I'm good at programming. I don't know if I'm good at math. That's nonsense. You know, you can do it regardless of your background. I did it. You know, we have lots of stories of other students who wouldn't have thought of taking this path either. And then they started dabbling in it. They realized they just enjoyed working with data and working with people. And if you take these great classes, you know, in our department and across some other departments that partner with us, you'll be qualified to do some awesome things. So, but that's one of the differences as you kind of branch out into data analytics. It is a little more mathy, you know, and it does require some more advanced statistical tools. Andy, do you want to talk for a second about where, you know, where the IS programs go once you actually go beyond that core?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris's answer is perfect. That the data, you know, data analytics you'll have great stat and math classes, and the math and stat skills of our data analysts, our data analytics majors are very impressive, honestly. When I'll riff just up for a minute here. When I started in this department 4 years ago, Chris said, you know, we really want to make the programming and the statistics very rigorous. I would say, when you compare this data analytics department to other universities, that's really where we're very strong. There's 3 stats PhDs in our department, and I have a computer science PhD. So compared to other data analytics departments, I would say you'll get very, very good experience with stat tools. And the one thing that's awesome about our department is you'll get a lot of examples about how to use them from the jump. Because we're an applied department, we're in the business school, we're really focused on, you know, translating skills to, you know, resume and how is this actually going to get used in the real world. And a lot of our classes have final projects, so that the things you learn, you know, the stats tools you learn along the way, you can have really good application of those tools very early in your academic career. So you know, they come alive very quickly. So I would say we're very strong in stats and math. So that's one thing. And 2 of my degrees are in computer science. I have an undergrad and my PhD is computer science. I'll tell you right now, the stats and math you'll get in data analytics are stronger than computer science. The only exception being if you went into a master's in data science, but that's an exception. Generally speaking, they're very strong in this department. And what's really cool about that, and let me give you some example when you go to actually do a job as an analyst. A lot of the things you'll work on are project based. So Chris teaches a class making decisions with data. A lot of the projects you work on are how do we make things better? How do we do more? Provide more services or increase profits in whatever way that means for whatever corporation you're working for. So if working on projects and in a team and solving problems is fun to you, and it's fun to me because it is fun. That's a great, that could be a great fit for you. All right, so let me jump to IS. So the complement of that is IS. You'll learn programming in both. If you do an IS, there are more, so Python programming, you'll learn that in both. IS or data analyst, you'll learn Python programming. As you do the IS emphases, you'll learn other languages as well. You'll learn JavaScript and the few different ways that JavaScript is used and the software frameworks that go along with it. So, and the difference though then is when you go to get a job, you'll probably be using those other languages or other skills in that role. So that would be, the similarities is you'll get strong programming, strong statistics, data analyst direction, even more statistics and math, and then IS direction, even more programming skills.
Yeah, excellent. And I love that you both brought up math and that it's manageable, right? Because that is a concern I do hear from students. They can tend to shy away from data analytics because of the statistics in linear algebra class.
Yeah, and so let me just add one thing along
Yeah.
those lines, Valerie, because I've heard the same things in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But to any students who are listening to this, or in the future, if you talk to students, you can share this with them as well. When I first came into this department, I moved over from the Department of Mathematics and Statistics several years ago, so we could try to kind of build this program, which was going to be different and unique. I talked to a lot of students who were looking for jobs, and I talked to alumni who were out there working. And they said, as we were kind of considering these more rigorous math and computing requirements, they said, I wish I could go back and take these classes that we're now requiring. They said at the time, we kind of avoided it because this kind of thing wasn't required as a part of the degree program at the time. But they said, in fact, there was one great alum from our program who's done very well for himself. He's in a good job now. But he was at the point of graduation when I moved into the department, and we were considering, what we needed students to be able to do to really be competitive in the market. And he actually kind of got a little bit emotional with me and said he wishes now that he could go back, and it was too late for him at that point, but he wished that somebody had kind of required that of him, because he didn't do it just because it wasn't required, but based on the kinds of interviews that he was participating in and what he was being asked to do in his internship, he felt like he kind of regretted that was a gap, and he still has done very well. But just know that these requirements are intentional. They're designed to make students competitive, and you can do it. I mean, I did it, and lots of students do it who maybe don't have, they weren't maybe the kind of the typical math, freaks in high school. They weren't taking AP calculus. They weren't taking APs. I mean, that's the way Utah State University is designed, that will get you where you need to go. It's never too late. And regardless of where you're starting from, we'll get you there and we'll support you. We want you to succeed. And so don't be daunted or worried about any of these requirements or think that for some reason you might not be capable.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I see daily when I work with data IS faculty. And that's something that I love sharing with you students, that these faculty are truly vested in not only your success as students, but as you venture out to your career as well. So we're very fortunate to have extremely good faculty who care about your success. The next question is, if you two will address, What would you say is something students can do prior to applying to internships and jobs to help them stand out? Because I know that when we have these job opens this summer, there were several that had hundreds of applicants. So how can our students stand out from those hundreds?
Andy, do you want to take this one? I mean, you like you said, you have a lot of experience working out in banking, and so you actually were involved in hiring graduates into these kinds of positions as well. Do you have some insights into things that help students to stand out, the things that you want our graduates to do now?
Absolutely. So you know, in your education, you're going to get a lot of knowledge and skills. I would say, you know, loading up on the skills part early really helps with getting an internship. So I would say the programming classes, especially Python and SQL, the earlier the better. So I think usually our students kind of take those sophomore year and the sophomore year, but which is great. But generally speaking, the skills classes will help you get an internship pretty quick. And I think you know a lot of internships and you know a job, full-time jobs, love to see projects on there. They love to see, you know, teamwork. They love to see how you took skills and then applied them. Along that vein, you know, uh, with calculus and linear algebra, they might seem, for the students watching, they might seem like, you know, dusty old math books that have been around for decades, but the skills you get in those classes, you know, linear algebra and linear systems is the mother of machine learning, which has become the most successful AI field. So if you're interested in those kind of things, you know, you can, in the words of Chris Corcoran, you can do it. You know, we can get you there. And a path that I've seen successful, by the way, on that is, if you data engineering does not require calculus and linear algebra, but a lot of students I've seen start data engineering, they start to really enjoy it, and then they get a perspective on how these tools are really useful and how I can build things, really incredible things with them, and then they end up taking calculus or linear algebra a little bit later. You know, they're end of junior or beginning of senior year because they want to dual major in data analytics and data engineering. And that's a great path as well, because, you know, they kind of get it after a little while. I can do this. And there are people around, you know, me to help me, who want me to succeed. And so that's a great path as well. But internships, you know, to give you a concise answer, load up on skills early.
Yeah, and one thing I love about the Huntsman School, and Valerie, you're kind of exhibit A here for why the Huntsman School works so well in terms of getting students ready. You know, the Huntsman School has a very strong career-oriented approach with students. So our job as faculty is to, you know, give you great experience in classes. And I can guarantee, I'm the department head for this, you know, this department. Any class you take in this department is going to be a great experience. You're going to get good hands-on experiences. Andy said, you're going to get skills that you'll see applied in interesting ways. You know, a lot of our classes are very project-based. But, you know, Valerie, you and the people that work with you in the FJ Management Career Success Center are so critical, because you are the ones who help students to translate those skills into, you know, kind of a marketing message for themselves. Like what are they qualified to do? How can they put their best foot forward? You know, how can they find an internship, and how can they sell themselves, you know, when they're seeking those internships? And so, again, to any students who are watching this, I would strongly encourage you to get in touch with your career coach, whether that's, you know, Valerie, or even if you're in another department right now and you're majoring in something else, make sure to get in touch with your career coach earlier than later. You may think, when you're like, say, a new freshman, or, you know, you're early on in your academic career, or you just joined the major, you might think, I'm not ready to talk to a career coach yet. You're wrong if you think that. You should be talking to your career coach as soon as you decide on this major. People like Valerie will help you to map out the path that will, you know, allow you to, like Andy said, to make sure you got those skills in your toolkit, but then to start developing your marketing message so that you can get an internship sooner than later. Everybody that we talk to, when we talk to alumni and recruiting partners, those internships are crucial. You know, the experience that you have working on real problems, working in the real world, that's the thing that will get you to the top of the stack. And so making sure you're honing that message early on is really important. Two other really quick things. One is the Career Expo in the Huntsman School is also really awesome. I mean, the Huntsman School does an amazing job. It happens in September every year. Even if you're a brand new student, you should be going and hanging out at that Career Expo for as long as you can. You should do your homework, find out who the employers are going to be. Don't just walk up, in your workout outfit and just start casually talking to people. Dress the part. Find out what companies are going to be there. Find out about those companies. Ask, script out some good questions that you can ask. Talk to your career coach ahead of time so that you can get any direction from them. And go talk to them, because honestly, in our program, like Andy said, it's possible even for some students after their freshman year to be, potentially, I'm not saying this is a guarantee, but if you take the right combination of classes, you can be ready for an internship after your freshman or sophomore year, and you should be acting accordingly. I mean, even if it doesn't work out, that's fine, but you should be in that mindset that you're going to seek an internship, as quickly as possible, and maybe do more than one, if you can. The second thing I just wanted to point out quickly that relates to this is I want to make sure we emphasize the Analytics Solution Center that Valerie, you mentioned, and I think Andy, you may have mentioned as well. The Analytics Solution Center is the experiential arm of our department that has been growing rapidly, where we provide opportunities for students to work on real world projects with real companies and get paid to do it. So companies sponsor the Analytics Solution Center, and then we hire students, and we have faculty mentors like Andy, who are awesome, who work with these students to solve these actual real world problems. And our students who work for the Analytics Solution Center definitely differentiate themselves. They, students who work for the Analytics Center have 100% placement when it comes to jobs. Sometimes they get hired by the companies that are, are corporate sponsors, but for sure they get hired by other companies who are impressed by the students' experience that they build up working on, again, an actual problem and deploying a solution as well. We don't just have students who are in data analytics working on these teams. We have students who are in data engineering, who are in cybersecurity, who are in web and software development, because we need teams of students to actually not just model data, but to engineer a data set, come up with a solution by modeling, and then deploy that solution. We even hire students from outside the department, from other departments, because we just are interested in making sure we have the right team to solve the problem, and so that's how we identify students. The ASC, by the way, you don't need to be employed by the ASC as a student analyst. There are other ways to get involved. And so, click on that website and find out, because we have forums that happen every month throughout the academic year. We have other functions. We have what was before a Canvas course kind of that was built for the ASC, but I think that's been moved to another platform. You can find out more on this website, but we have a way for you to connect so that we know who you are. You can upload your resume. We can see that you're interested. You can come to some of the other ASC activities. And so that's one huge way to get involved. And also one last thing that relates to this experiential learning. Also, don't forget Hack USU that happens every spring in the Huntsman School annually. That's another way to get involved, where you can work on a real problem. You can just show up with your friends, pick a problem to work on, compete. So it's an exciting, dynamic kind of 24-hour event. We have, not only are students working on problems and where they're kind of competing in these different categories, but we also have workshops. We have recruiting partners, corporate partners, sponsors who are there interacting with students. Anything that you can do to work on a real problem and to come up with a solution and to, you know, solve a problem and to demonstrate that you can do some self-learning on top of, you know, your foundational skill set through Hack USU, the ASC, finding an internship, whatever it might be, anything that you can do is going to help you to distinguish yourself from other graduates. And what we're finding, and this is not just anecdotal, this is pretty objective, what we're finding is that students that get involved with these events, Hack USU, they're involved with the ASC, they go to the Career Expo and they're intentional about it. They seek internships early and maybe even do multiple internships. Students who do those things are placed, you know, in great jobs 100% of the time. And I know that money's not everything. You know, there are lots of other things that make life fulfilling. But Andy, you can attest to this. I mean, a lot of these jobs our students are getting who really qualify themselves. These are good, you know, high-paying, very rewarding jobs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've had 3 businesses that were born out of Hack USU where they just had an idea and built it in 24 hours in their team and then launched a company out of it. That's happened 3 times, maybe more that I don't know of. And Chris is absolutely right. Even if you try and you know, start a business or an idea or product or service, the experience of just going through it all just sharpens your skills and gives you a different perspective. And those students who just really jump in and get involved, they end up getting excellent jobs. And one of our alumni we visited this past summer at AWS to talk to our, you know, current students, and it was a great experience. And yeah, we just had a trip to Silicon Valley where we visited all the big tech firms in Silicon Valley and talked with, I think, either alumni or people we work with as partners in all of those companies, and they're offering incredible jobs to the students who are just ready to jump in. And to echo something Chris said earlier, you can do this. You know, hard work and just jumping in, hard work, teamwork, figuring it out. Those skills are so valuable. If you pair those with the tech skills and stat skills that will get you, you can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Those are things that I will tell you, students, when we meet. Networking is critical. It will make all the difference in the world. Really getting involved, doing internships. Not to repeat everything else they said, the one other thing that I would add is getting involved in clubs. Huntsman has a lot of clubs that are specific for data analytics and IS majors and the emphases, and they're phenomenal. They'll really prepare you with skills and career readiness as well. And then the last thing I would say is maybe, and the reason why I think some of these internships are so important as well as networking is you have the opportunity to showcase your soft skills, because recruiters tell me all day long they need people who can collaborate with other people. And that's one thing that will be displayed through your internships, are those soft skills.
Yeah, totally. And thanks for mentioning the clubs too, Valerie. The Association for Information Systems, or AIS club, our student chapter, is very dynamic. There are a lot of students involved, and it serves as an umbrella for, you know, some more kind of focused clubs that cater to students who are in different areas. We have the SOC Club, which is for students who are in cybersecurity. We have an amazing Women in Tech club, which is also under the AIS, which has dozens and dozens of our students involved to help to promote opportunities for women in data and tech. And so, you know, we have under the AIS, we have different opportunities for students to get involved. And, you know, these clubs, like I said, they have great student leadership. These students have great connections to external partners, recruiting partners, alumni. And so those clubs are a great way to network, just to meet people and find out about additional opportunities. By the way, just to kind of, you know, give you a few breadcrumbs about what's coming up in our department. We are planning on adding some tracks this coming year. I mean, how those specifically will be laid out, that's kind of what we're in the process of determining now. But during this coming academic year, meaning by the time we get into 2025, We'll have tracks in full stack development and fintech, which is a growing area that intersects with data analytics, with also with tech entrepreneurship. We have a growing kind of program that allows students to work on ideas where they can develop an idea, build a company. I think Andy kind of alluded to this earlier, but this is going to be a really important part of the program because the process of actually coming up with a business idea in tech and actually creating a company out of that, even if the company, doesn't pan out ultimately, that experience is another differentiator when companies are hiring our graduates. And so just know that those things are kind of coming down the pipeline. And so we're constantly trying to calibrate and and add experiences for students that are going to meet needs out in the workforce and kind of help us to address those kinds of trends. And so stay tuned because data analytics is like a super exciting roller coaster. And so join us, come along for the ride because there are great things coming down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Yep, further evidence of how dynamic the department is. So do we want to take one last minute and talk about what a day in the life looks like?
Andy, you
Yeah.
can probably address this the best.
Absolutely. I'm actually glad we brought this up because that's a common question is what's the day in the life of a data analyst versus data scientist? So both jobs are going to be analyzing large data sets to make business decision. But I would say the component that will be specific to data scientists would be, as a data scientist, you'll be expected to understand and use machine learning and AI techniques as part of your daily job. And those classes, we offer multiple, I think, 3, 4, or 5 classes that teach about machine learning modeling and artificial intelligence techniques and how to use them in a business setting, how to deploy them onto cloud solutions. So that part, and generally speaking, that kind of opens up a broader idea that should you get what's more valuable, work experience or a master's? So when I graduated, they were pretty even. Should I go get a master's for 2 years or should I go get really good work experience for 2 years? I would say now it is leaning towards, if you're interested in a data field, master's is becoming more and more common. For a data scientist, I would say it's pretty much standard. To be a data scientist, a master's is what's expected. I will say some of our excellent or rock star students are getting data scientist jobs with a bachelor's only, but that's less common. What's much more common is a job as a data scientist, has a master's and is expected to understand more advanced ML techniques. And along with that, machine learning engineer. In fact, I did an analysis, as I mentioned in the beginning of the summer, machine learning engineers, which then your job is more taking the models that a data scientist develops and then deploying them so that the business can use them. I'm sure a lot of you have seen, with the rise of GPT, that there's a lot of businesses that are now incorporating GPT services into what they do. A machine learning engineer is going to be more involved with how do we connect what we're currently doing to existing models and use existing models. And that job is ever becoming an excellent, high-paying job as well. And that would also probably require a master's more and more. So in the data field, those jobs of data scientist and machine learning engineer, a master's would be appropriate. And we offer that. We offer masters in data analytics, which will definitely get you that skill set with our upper level classes in machine learning and AI and model deployment. And you'll be set up for those kinds of jobs. So I would say, in this day and age, a master's is a little more important.
Perfect. Excellent. Any other final words of wisdom or advice you would want to share for students trying to figure out, is data for me or is IS for me?
One thing I just say is don't be afraid to reach out to any of the professors in our department to talk about this. If you've taken a class from somebody, already, or if you just kind of know somebody casually, or even if you just find us, on our website, just come drop in or reach out. On the whole, our faculty are very accessible. People are willing to talk, starting with me and Andy, and there are many others in our department who are willing to talk you through this. So if you have questions about, what it is that we're doing, some of the courses, which direction to take, in terms of the options that we have, do not be, afraid to just kind of reach out and come see us, set up an appointment, or, find out when our office hours are, and just come by. We're happy to talk to anybody who has these kinds of questions. So please come see us.
Perfect. And I attest to that. I send students your way all the time, and they always come back telling me great conversations. So excellent. Thank you both so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks, Valerie.
Yeah.